getting passed by multiple cars, as I mentioned earlier on. So Newhoff in a very precarious situation, but he often finds himself in these places. He doesn't qualify as well as he races.
Up front, they are getting with Lee Aberdeen and Luca Varani not very far apart at all here. But I just want to see how Alistair Haig deals with Marcello Kessler coming around the old hairpin.
Say it's not the best decision they've ever made, just not having done that under the safety car, really.
Yeah, they're taking their pit stop strategies from Ferrari lately or something. What's going on?
In turn one, just too much gas on them, too much feet on the round pedal, and unfortunately he's dropped him all the way down the order. But Philip Hammer is out in front by an 8.91 seconds. Dan Michael is a wall there, sir. And definitely doesn't want to be hitting that earlier on as well.
Difficult, the understeer is in the dirty air through that final corner because it's such a long corner and you get dragged off into the grass very easily. He'll have the slipstream down in towards the chicane. Peterson was briefly alongside, but that slipstream has saved him and kept him in third.
Yeah, Varani now lost a little bit of time to Aberdeen, about half a second. Peterson is Pike's pushed Morton forward up ahead. He's got out of line. Is now Pike going to have a go at Werrell? Don't push him off. He's in the championship fight. Jack Werrell chasing down Carl Jacklin. Further down, Rob Williams and Chris Barnes.
Sensational run outside line now though for the heavy braking zone. Around the outside goes the Audi R8.
Look how much Miller's caught back into play. Exactly. Miller's still such up. He's left on second and change. All of a sudden, Miller's back in play.
On to the back end of Phil Jocelyn, so there's been a lot of movers and shakers in this first 2 laps here for race.
Absolutely serious racing league. Everybody's a lot of fun. Yeah, it's all about the entertainment. So I hope everybody is enjoying themselves out there in the chat. We know that Ron is been enjoying himself watching the Burger King machines off into the grass a little bit there as they're really bunching up now.
Hello everybody and welcome to the Tanso Racing Group's TVG GR86 series here from Navarra. We're pretty close to the halfway point in this season already. 7 rounds and 14 races ahead of us here this season. We've already had our first couple. First of all, Okayama, where Scott McFall was able to take a couple of overall victories and really pull ahead in the championship. Took another one last week at Zolder Alternate, which provided some great racing. But now it's time for Navarra in our second European round in this middle European part of the season. Really, we've got 4 weeks back to back at some great iconic European circuits. It's myself, Ewan, and Brad Dalton alongside me here for this race. Looking forward to this, Brad. Again, well, last week we had the alternate layout at Zolder. I'm not entirely sold on it yet, but you know, it was still some decent racing, plenty of stuff going on, and again we're going to have that here, I would have thought, at Navarra, the speed circuit, whatever that means. To me it's just the normal layout. I've not seen any other layouts used, to be honest with you. It is the full length of Navarra, nearly 2 minutes long, and a circuit that I'm not sure everyone will have very much experience on.
Yeah, good evening everybody, good afternoon, depending on where you're at in the world. Of course, it's just on the bottom of 3 o'clock for me here. Yeah, this is a track that I'm curious to see how the drivers handle. As you said, it's not one that a lot of experience with, and the different layout, I haven't identified the difference. So somebody in YouTube chat somewhere can educate me and tell me what it is, but I will tell you right now, moments like that have been aplenty since this practice session started. Plenty of drivers seeming to be pushing the limits of the grip of these GR86s here through practice, and they're just trying to find that little bit of speed, and it's something that we talk about a lot, especially when you compare drivers like this wonderful driver right here, Mr. Scott Brown, who can be pretty feisty behind the wheel, and we'll see as he's top of the timing tables right now, has been there for some time here in practice and has put in a considerable amount of laps. I'm curious to see who is going to be challenging at the front here today.
Yeah, we'll see about that, really. I don't know. To the point on the spin there, by the way, out of turn 3, I was just telling you beforehand, I did the race pre-recorded of this equivalent round last season, where somebody rolled over on the back straight. There was such a big crash, so you know, anything can happen around here. 1 minute to go in practice, and in the meantime I will tell you about the championship standings, although it's not worth too much after just 2 rounds. Scott McFall is leading the pros by 42 points already, ahead of Oliver Butnick, and Andrew Sharp is 46 back. Scott Brown is 51 back. Jack Holland rounds out the top 5. He's 60 back. There's a lot of big gaps in that pro field, but you mentioned it earlier, Scott McFall has been dominant so far this season, and it's no surprise really that he's got such a big championship lead.
Yeah, and the domination is the key through. Again, this is a set of races and cars that are very evenly matched, very similar, and the season moves quick. So if you can get out early and get that run very quick, you are going to be in a good position. It does look like Scott McFall, that is his goal in the pros. The Pro-Ams, of course, Jens Goossens, they're running through with Peter Duke in second place there. So curious to see, because that's a very close battle. And then the AMs are going to be really fun to watch as well, because Terry Atkinson is trying to run away, and it does look like there are 2 Atkinsons on your timing table right now. One of them, the number 82, is going to be Terry Atkinson, and the number 87 is Sean Atkinson. So we'll see which of the Atkinsons can top out the other here. Practice is over, and we're going to go into qualifying now.
We will, yep. And so a couple of moments before we get through qualifying, which will be a few minutes, not too long. Everyone will have lone qualifying, of course. It's 3 laps is what you get in the allotted time, although it will be a bit of a challenge to squeeze them in around here, because it is such a long circuit, but they should manage it. Just to go through the Pro-Am and AM standings properly, the top 4 in Pro-Am are covered by 9 points. Jens Goossens and Peter Duke separated by 3. Andy White and Mark Proctor are tied on 143. They're both 9 back. It's very, very close. Peter Woodmore and Dan Forster round out the top 6, and they're only 22 back at most. So we've got a very exciting Pro-Am battle to enjoy. Terry Atkinson, as you say, is leading in AM. He's got 25 points, specifically ahead of Walters, and that's Vesta Atkinson, Sean Atkinson, that is, and Stephen DeWild in the rest of the top 5, and then Johnston is in 6th position, a little bit further back, only 40 points back, I suppose, but even so, he is down in 6th place for the moment. Got 21 in the field here today, by the way, which is a little bit less than last week, but we can't be too greedy. Over the first couple of weeks of this season, we've had very big grids. A great entry. It's just come down slightly towards the low 20s here today, but it's still a very promising grid. And as I was saying to you beforehand, I think some drivers may have seen the track today and thought, oh, maybe I won't, because I've got to say it's a pretty uninspiring circuit to drive around. It's completely flat, and it feels somewhat mechanical in some ways. It feels very much like there's no rhythm to it at all. There's no flow to it really either. As I said before, the racing last season was absolutely fine, and I'm looking forward to the racing, but I don't think any of the drivers have woken up this morning and thought, I can't wait to drive this circuit.
Yeah, and it's a track that when I looked at it, I was kind of interested as well to see what the driver count is. Of course, you go from Okayama to Zolder, we're here at Navarra, and you look at some of the tracks coming up, I know that those are going to pull some pretty big counts. Road Atlanta, of course, being the finale of this season, so I know that will pull a good car count. And of course, the one thing I do like to remember and point out is that some people have, real life obligations that pop up on a Sunday here and there. So, and it is virtual cars. Sometimes real life jumps in first and kind of kicks around. And while it's not always the best thing, sometimes it does happen. You miss a week, and thankfully, sometimes you can get away with it. Sometimes it doesn't here. We've got drivers starting their flying laps. We're following Peter Duke here, who is trying to put in a pretty good time. He is about a quarter of the way through his lap here as he continues on, and I'm curious to see what Peter Duke can do here in his class and try to bring things around as drivers start to set times. The timing tower will pop up on your left, and you'll get an idea of where everyone's at.
I think Andrew Sharp is going to be first, though. He had some trials and tribulations last week, that's for sure, did Andrew Sharp. Had an incident in the first race, had to recover through the field. Didn't really manage it in the end, but got a decent second race result. He is on the back straight at the moment, looking to set the benchmark. Your first lap in one of these sessions is never going to be the best, or it's rarely going to be the best in my experience, but it's about building yourself up, getting quicker and quicker and quicker for that third and final lap where you are the quickest. But in this first lap, the main objective, I think, at least in my opinion, is to get at least a time on the board and put something up there just in case things go wrong in the second and third laps.
Yeah, and it is one of those things that when we watch, you have to remember for these drivers, it's very inverse to other motorsports. When you look at other motorsports and you think about it, like Formula One is one that I like to compare sometimes. Formula One, they go out, they do their out lap, then they do their push lap, then they do an in lap. These GR86s, you don't have just that little window with the tires, that little window with the fuel. They can hold on and just go and go and go and go and not have an issue. So as you said, every lap is a little bit more of a wind-up. You're learning a little bit more. You're getting a little bit more comfortable as we go. It's going to be pushing it to get all three of your laps in here as we go. But you can see Andrew Sharp there, Peter Duke, top of the timing tables. I do want to jump back to Scott McFall, who is getting ready to finish his first lap. And Scott McFall should be able to find a pretty good time here. He's been lighting up the timing tables. You can see purple first, second, and third sector by a considerable margin.
Wow, this is going to be a provisional pole. Peter Duke is currently the fastest in the times, but that's not going to last very long. Scott McFall is going to absolutely destroy the field here. Over the line for Scott McFall, it's a 55.2. He's nearly a second ahead of everybody else. Now, part of that, I believe, is down to the fact that not everyone has reached their absolute peak yet in this qualifying session. That may be true, but even so, Scott McFall is destroying the field. He is the quickest man in this field, and he is currently on the pole position.
Yeah, that is a very, very good opening statement from Scott McFall to get set up. 4 minutes, 45 seconds left to go in qualifying. And this is going to be Scott Brown, who is going to be looking to respond here. Nobody's put in purple sectors to respond to Scott McFall's 155.2. I looked at that at first and I thought, oh, we just got it by 100th. No, that's a full second that he has gotten up and gotten the gap going. And I don't see anyone responding to that at all. Possibly Scott Brown maybe going a little bit faster here, but I still don't think he's going to be able to answer in for that at all. Still, all purple sectors belong to Scott McFall in dominating fashion.
Yeah, we are not going to see very many purple sectors down at the bottom of your screen, I wouldn't have thought, other than from Scott McFall himself. Looks like Dave Clark's going fairly quickly at the moment. He's down in 13th place, just 6/10 off of Terry Atkinson, I believe, who's on... excuse me, it's Sean Atkinson. That's going to trip me up more than once. Sean Atkinson, who is currently on the AM pole. Is Dave Clark going to just overtake him here, though? It's certainly a personal improvement, and he does. So 9th place for Clark in a very good lap time from him, although Atkinson goes straight ahead of him again as well. So it's a very close AM qualifying session here too. There's exactly a 1/10 of a second between first and second in that class at the moment. As there's improvements for second position here. It is now Andy White in second. Mark Brown also improved that time round. He is third. And Peter Duke, who also improved. Scott Brown also improves to 5th.
Plenty of drivers getting wound up here, getting times in, but several drivers have not gotten times on the board. Stephen Parker Hamilton, Terry Atkinson, and Lee Rylands have not managed to set a clean lap through. They've had their lap times all wiped on track penalties, which is not something we're used to seeing happen, but it is something that can happen here on this circuit. So we've got a couple drivers that still need to try to find some times. Then I really like when you look at that top 4, it's pro-am, pro-am. It is not a very clear-cut field for who's going to be where, other than, well, maybe Scott McFall, but again, purple sectors, not anywhere that I see here. Stephen Parker Hamilton will come across the line. Where is he going to put himself here with the pro-ams as he crosses the line? It is going to be where's he land himself here? I don't see his time moving. No, invalidated again.
Yeah, must have been. Peter Duke going purple in the 3rd sector. That's very strange, because he's gone... not even improving on his own personal best in the first 2, but he's going quickly in the 3rd one, so I don't really know what's going on here with Peter Duke, but he's clearly ambitious and clearly thinks he can improve, because he's gone round the final corner. If you weren't going to, you'd just pull into the pit lane there, pull to the right-hand side, just before you get to the penultimate and final turns. Here goes Peter Duke up towards the line then. I don't think it's going to quite be pole position, but it won't be bad. It is 3rd place. So clearly that purple sector did count for something, and he moves up to 3rd, as you say, scattering the pros and pro-ams even further. It's not quite set out how it was designed at the moment, this qualifying session.
Yeah, traditionally we would think, pros are the fastest, pro-am in the middle, and ams at the bottom, but that's not at all what we're seeing here, especially as Dan Forrester comes across the line and goes through. Terry Atkinson is looking like he's on a very good, comfortable lap, and Terry Atkinson will come across, sets himself into 10th there, lead of the ams. Look at Scott McFall putting in more purple sectors here, purple 1st, purple 3rd, so maybe Scott McFall has something to give with about a minute left to go. Can he go faster than a 1:55.2? Well, let's see what this time is. It's a 1:55.1. So he has found even more time. That is absolutely ridiculous.
It is, yeah. That's the new fastest lap time last time round for Scott McFall. Stephen Parker and Scott Bell are going to be the final drivers to come across the line here. And because they're both pushing on, it looks like they'll both be trying to improve. Although Stephen Parker's miles back at the moment, if this is indeed him, into the final corner. Don't believe it is, but Parker, I wouldn't have thought he's going to improve. He's going to set his first time, though, which is going to put him into 12th place. So he's right in the midfield, as Scott Bell now goes over the line as well. That's going to be in the 57s. He might improve that. He is going to improve, and up to 14th place, so the AM driver goes 3rd in class. Don't forget, the qualifying order is not set out how the classes are meant to be. It's not reordered. This is legitimately the starting order, the starting grid for the race, the first race, that is. We've got a top 6 to be reversed as well in the end of the opening race, and overall 45 minutes of racing over the course of this evening in the TVG GR86 series. Those are your qualifying results. And as a result, this is the grid for your race. Scott McFall and Andy White are on the front row together with Peter Duke and Mark Brown, the only other drivers within a second of Scott McFall. Scott Brown and Dan Forster are on row 3, ahead of Andrew Sharp and Neil Kennedy, with Alan McCain and Jack Holland rounding out 2 all-pro rows. It's Terry Atkinson, first in AM, 11th overall, ahead of Stephen Parker, the AM champion from 1 season ago. Sean Atkinson is going to be second in AM, with Scott Bell third. Dave Clark and Tim Walters are on row 8 together as AMs. Peter Woodmore and Michael Vester are on row 9 as Pro AMs. It is Lee Rylands and Adrian Hadfield rounding out the top 20, with John Johnston and Curtis Matthews to round out the 22 drivers in the field. And we have got a few more than what we got in practice with a few minutes to go. We only had 20. We're up to 22 in a nicely formed field, ready for 20 minutes of racing, first of all, in the opening race of the evening. A few more to grid up just yet. But this should be good. It's going to be all about trying to beat Scott McFall, though. I'm not sure anyone is going to find this particularly easy, to be honest. Scott McFall is going to be very difficult to beat.
Yeah, the goal is going to be get off the line and put pressure on Scott McFall early. If you let Scott McFall run away by any time frame, it's race over at that point, and it's just a case of who can catch the man in white here, Scott McFall, up in the front. It is really going to be challenging, but we are getting ready to be overweight here.
Here we go. Oh dear, and from third place already, a plume of smoke from Peter Duke. Let's hope that's not a jump start, as he now gets underway very sluggishly as well. Ducking out behind him already is one of the drivers in 5th place, I'm afraid, and that's a terrible start for Peter Duke, who goes backwards and backwards some more. Scott McFall still leads off the line here, off the pole position and into the front, ahead of Mark Brown, who's made up a couple of places. He's right in behind him here, along with Andy White, who's up to 3rd place, as they go through the opening few corners for the first time. Scott McFall gets away well. It's an even better start, though, for Mark Brown. A terrible one for Peter Duke, who finds himself 17th.
Yeah, Peter Duke, that is, I mean, you couldn't write a worse start for him there. That was painful to watch, honestly, is the best way I can explain it. That was painful to watch. We see battles continue on here. We've got some cars side by side in the background here. This is going to be Jack Holland, who is trying to get a move done around the outside here on Forrester. If he can make it stick, well, it's going to be very, very hard to make that stick through. But I said you got to catch Scott McFall, and Mark Brown, I think, took that very, very personal, ran it forward here, and now up in the front, it is McFall and Brown that will continue to challenge through this race.
Well, let's out of the bottom of the circuit. This is the big stop down at turn 9. And, Brown off the road in the background. Scott Brown's off. He, I'm afraid, qualified in the midfield in the danger zone. And he's had an incident, I'm afraid. There he drops down to 15th place. Just ahead of him, Walters and Vester battling away for 13th. They're not in the same class either, though. Vester gets through. Oh, there's contact. And up into the air goes Walters slightly. Round the outside goes Scott Brown. He'll take those 2 places, but he's got a lot more positional gain to make before he's gaining any more points. That was a bit more contact with Vester. And this is going to be so awkward now for Scott Brown to work his way all the way back through the field.
Yeah, it's going to be extremely awkward there to see how they go. Scott McFall coming down the main straight here towards turn 1, and the track map, ignore that up on the top. It is doing a little bit of a weird thing there, so we're just going to disappear that for the moment here. Bell's into the pit lane. Scott McFall has taken off here. Mark Brown in second. Further back, we do have some battles. Let's take a look at that Scott Brown crash one more time here early on and see what happened to him as he came through.
Yeah, down into turn 9. He's very close behind a couple of drivers ahead of him. Brakes a bit too late, goes in a bit too quickly and spins around. He is lucky that he doesn't end up on the racing line there and get collected. Don't forget there isn't any damage in this series, so he wouldn't have been hit and got damaged, I suppose, but even so, it would have cost him a lot more time. As we go back to the battle for 4th place here, this is Andrew Sharp trying to hold off Dan Forster and Jack Holland. Holland has made up 4 places so far, by the way, on that opening lap, so a very good start indeed from him.
Yeah, very, very good start as we jump here on the back of Andrew Sharp and ride along with him, who is doing very well here. And again, you look at the top groups, and Pro and Pro-Am are very mixed this season. Something we haven't seen a lot of, but they're doing very, very well with it. I do want to jump back with Dave Clark here, who has Scott Brown for company. Scott Brown hard on the brakes up the inside. Scott Brown now up into P12 here and has managed to pull some time. Peter Duke, I don't want to compound the misery for Peter Duke, but Peter Duke down in 17th place, down 14 places on the day, and is currently sitting back quite a bit here, and it looks like will be there for some time. Brown, though, Mark Brown is catching up to Scott McFall here. Gap coming down to 6/10. All the drivers look fairly comfortable right now. I haven't seen any sort of big scary moments other than that one early Scott Brown moment, but I haven't seen anything egregious happen here. Everyone's fairly close, fairly compact, and this battle is going to continue on. And as I say that, somebody in the background, I believe that is actually Stephen Parker Hamilton, gets very loose.
He's just ahead of Terry Atkinson, who still leads in the field, but that's Stephen Parker Hamilton back to 10th place. Still, though, third in the Pro-Am class, the closest of the classes, really, in the field. Stephen Parker Hamilton has only been at one of the rounds so far, though. That was at Okayama, so he's way back in the championship as things stand. And Jens Gosens, the championship leader, isn't here today, so he's going to drop back a little bit. Peter Duke will assume the lead, you would have thought, in that case, but Andy White is a long way ahead of him at the moment. Mark, I'm afraid, is not here, so unfortunately half of the drivers who are in that top 4 and only 9 points apart are not here at the moment. We go back to Mark Brown, though, at the end of the second lap through starting the third one. He is applying the pressure to Scott McFall. Now, not suggesting he's going to be making any overtake anytime soon here, because the gap's 0.8 of a second, but just refer back to the practice times here from these two. Mark Brown was quicker than Scott McFall, and that shows he does have the pace. He couldn't quite produce it in qualifying in the same way that Scott McFall did, but nevertheless, Mark Brown has speed, and he's using some of it right now to put some pressure on the race leader.
Yeah, and that's really going to be the key for Mark Brown here. I think it's going to be smooth and consistent, and he was faster in practice, and his lap times were very consistent in practice as well. So I'm curious to see if he can hold on to it. Something has happened to our friend Stephen Parker Hamilton. He is off back here in the background, and he gets back on the track. Not too many issues. We'll see if we can pick up a replay of what happened to him here, and it looks like, as we go, I believe that this is hard on the brakes coming in and just loses the traction off the corner. And that's one of the dangers of these GR86s, is sometimes the rear tires just, it doesn't matter that you should have the grip, they don't care, and they're just going to snap off and not really care.
Well, that was very close indeed to Peter Duke there for Stephen Parker Hamilton. That part of the field has got 5 Pro-Ams all battling for third place, bizarrely, because this is the battle for the lead in Pro-Am. Very wide from Andy White. He's going to let Andrew Sharp through here, and it might be a better idea to just let him go now because of the way that they're battling, and it would be quite disruptive for White, so he just let him through. Dan Forster will be closing in, though, as a result of this. There he is in the 5th position overall. This is the leading battle in Pro-Am. He got very close. Oh, did he make contact there? No. Or was that White going off on his own? Through turn 6 they were going. It's a difficult corner anyway. You're turning, and then trying to get on the brakes at turn 6. And White either lost it or he was hit by Dan Forster, who now leads in Pro-Am.
I believe that was 100% Andy White losing it on his own. Let's go to the blimp cam here. This will give us the definitive answer. And watch those tires. He's hard on the brakes. Maybe there was contact. Let's get this from a slightly different angle here, and this will answer all questions that we have.
I think there's contact there.
The slightest, if any.
It is slight, but I think it's enough because, as I said, through that corner you're on edge so much. You're turning, and then you have to get on the brakes for turn 6, and it's very, very difficult even on your own, especially in these cars which really don't like turning and braking at the same time. And so I reckon that is contact and might get into some trouble for that. Peter Woodmore is back to pit lane, by the way. I wonder if he's had a crash along the way. It wouldn't have damage because there isn't any, but bizarre for him to escape straight back to pit lane like that.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with McFall and Brown here, and then we'll jump back to a replay because I can confirm something happened to him here, and we'll see as soon as these two decide if they're going to go for a pass or not. We'll see exactly what that was because Mark Brown here has caught Scott McFall and is right on the back of him here and is very much hanging out here. Not going to make a pass at the moment. Here is what happened to our friend Peter Woodmore. He's going through. He's going to clip the inside curb. The car seems to be driving fine, and he just overcooks the rear, goes around, and then says, you know what, back to pit lane we go.
Yeah, that's enough for me. So it will be finishing down in last in the is not the way that Mark Brown likes to qualify, not the way that he goes quickest. Instead, it's a race run like this where he begins to go quicker and quicker, as shown by that fastest lap of the race last time round, and as shown by the fact that going into turn 11 there, I know he's a bit further back now, but going into turn 11, he was very close indeed to the back of Scott McFall.
That he was, and I have a feeling that is going to continue on, but of course we know that Mark Brown is a very smart driver. He's gonna pick his opportune moment to pass. He's not necessarily gonna, just make the ambitious dive for any reason. He will think, he'll pick his time here, and Scott McFall is a very strong defender. I want to go back a little bit here. This is jumping back to Andy White, because Andy White has a train of cars around him here, starting with Elaine McCain in front, but then you look back, you got Neil Kennedy, Lee Rylands, and Scott Brown, and this is the battle for 6th, 7th, and 8th in the pro class that is continuing on, 8th, 9th, and 10th overall. And remember, the top 6 are inverted for our feature event here. So we'll go through what should be another 5 laps of racing inverted, and then we'll do another roughly 14 laps.
I think it'll be six more laps actually, because we'll have 11 I think during this race, which is the pace at the very front. So I think we're going to get 11 in, but we'll see about that when we get towards the end of the opening race of the day. One more coming up after that, of course, the 25-minute reverse grid race. Only the top 6 get reversed though, and that makes this battle, as you say, even more exciting, because only the effective winning driver from this battle, if you want to put it like that, will be the pole sitter for the next race. So the stakes are a lot higher in this battle for 6th place than they normally would be.
They absolutely are, but it's going to produce some very, very close racing here. So we see Elaine McCain under pressure by Andy White. Andy White 2nd in that Pro-Am class. Elaine McCain currently 5th in the pros. We're going to go through down the inside. We'll look Andy White. Andy White not able to make the pass there. Did he open the door for Neil Kennedy to try to get a run around the outside? It doesn't look like it here at the moment, but behind them, it is Scott Brown and Lee Rylands running side by side. If Lee Rylands has that inside line, hard breaking through, try the crossover, doesn't make it connect, and now they are going to start losing touch with Kennedy, White, and McCain as they continue on. But I really am interested to see if Andy White has enough under the hood of that GR86 and enough in that right foot to make that pass.
I think he was close enough into turn 9 that time, but he just decided not to go for it for whatever reason. Decides to wait for another time. Still 5 laps to go as they go over the line here, and this is going to be 5 laps too many as far as Alan McCain is concerned. I think he'd much rather end this race right now so he can take pole for the second race, but it's 20 minutes as Peter Duke drops down the field again. I'm afraid he did qualify well right up towards the front, but I'm afraid his slow start has really snowballed into a bad race for him here. There was a battle going on just up ahead of him, but I don't think that's affected him. Or has it? There was a slower driver off the exit. Peter Duke spins it into the wall and takes a very long time to get back going again as well, as he lets a lot of traffic through.
Yeah, unfortunate for Peter Duke, but, we talk about it a lot. You do have races like this where sometimes it's just not your day. You have a good qualifying, get into the actual race, and it's not your day, but you still need to run. You still need to gather up the points. You need to just relax and run through, and we see Peter Duke here getting his run. He's going to get very quickly around Dave Clark back here in the AM class, go through, and Clark in the AMs is going to put a little bit of pressure back, but very clean pass there. Andy White side by side with Elaine McCain here. Hard braking, goes in, will have the inside line, but just can't clear him. He's right there, but it's that old saying, Mr. O'Leary, it's one thing to catch, it's another to pass. Somebody's around in the background, and I have a feeling that is Lee Rylands.
It is. Yep, he was battling side by side with Scott Brown there for 9th place, and he's spun, I'm afraid, right in front of the AM leader, Terry Atkinson. Still running well. He's not going to get into the top 6 and benefit from a reverse grid like he did at Okayama. But that's more like what we've been coming to expect, really, from the AM class. They don't really get anywhere near to the reverse grid anymore, unlike what they did last season. Here's Andy White looking at the inside of Alan McCain there into the final corner, and there's so much pressure being applied now to the pro driver. Andy White does just look quicker though. He's going to get into the slipstream here, and McCain knows immediately that he's going to have to go defensive because he pulls to the inside initially, then back to the racing line, into the slipstream for Andy White. Then is he going to be able to get anywhere here? No, it doesn't look like it, but he's going to give it a go now. Down the inside, in towards the triple right-hander to start this circuit. He brakes quite early, though, for turn 2. McCain brakes late round the outside, and his bravery is rewarded with 6th place.
Yeah, and that, I think White could have had that pass done, but he was just a little too off the line here. Now we're going to open up the door. We're going to get Neil Kennedy involved here, and Neil Kennedy will be looking to pass both of these drivers, and that will put Neil Kennedy in that 6th place, that inversion spot here. 5.5 minutes of racing left to go, few more laps left to go at least, and I don't see things slowing down anytime soon. Up front, Scott McFall and Mark Brown. That gap has opened up to over a second, so nothing too controversial to happen up front yet, but with a few more laps left, I could see Mark Brown trying to make a late race charge. We'll see how that plays through, because right now McCain, White, and Kennedy are putting on a show. They're earning the sponsors the TV time, and they are having fun doing it.
Yeah, they certainly are. So, this is the most interesting battle on the circuit for sure, this one for 6th place. Not sure what Neil Kennedy can really do about this here, with the 2 directly ahead of him battling away themselves. He's sort of just watching really at this stage, but he's got a great view of McCain and White's battle. There'll be 3 laps to go when they get to the line here, so plenty of time for White to try and work his way past in this 11 lap opener. Going to have I believe another a 13 lap second race a little bit later on, but don't quote me on that yet. We'll see when we get there. Over the line for this battle for 6th place. It is the closest one out on the circuit, certainly in the top 10 anyways. The only other one is Peter Duke trying to find his way past Scott Bell as things stand, trying to recover only to 17th place. Here goes White. He was not very brave into turn 2 last lap, and this is his chance again. Can he be braver? He's stuck up outside. He goes 2 wheels. He retains side by side at least, which is a better start for him. Into the 3rd corner they go. He's stuck up on the inside again here. He's not got a very good run. He gives a lot of room round turn 4, and McCain again hangs on to 6th place.
McCain is, doing everything in his power to keep that GR86 ahead, but tell you what, White is really, really pushing. He's trying his best. He's giving it the old college try, as we like to say. I don't know what more he could throw at him other than the front bumper, but you won't see Andy White do that. He's going to keep pushing. He's going to keep trying, and eventually something has to work, but he's running out of time to make this pass.
He certainly is. This is a good chance, though, down to turn 9. He needs to utilise one of these other chances other than the first 3 corners, which he's clearly not quite as good at. He brakes late, though, does Alan McCain. Too late, maybe. He goes off the circuit. Now he's going to retain the place. I don't think he retained it because he went off circuit, but he certainly went off in the process. Kennedy looks up the inside this time of Andy White. That could give McCain a chance to run away here. Scott Brown has joined them as well, by the way. You can see how much they're battling, because they've now been caught by Scott Brown, who overtakes Neil Kennedy after a big slide through turn 12.
Neil Kennedy with a big wiggle there. That's going to really compromise his run here. Andy White, though, still on the back of McCain, and this is for that all-important 6th place, which, again, in most races, you would say, it's 6th place. Here we invert the 6 into the 2nd race of the day, so that 6th place is all-important because he wants to start on the front of the grid when we go into our feature race here shortly, and we should have 2 minutes and 11 seconds as they cross the line. Are we going to have a case of the 24 Hours of Daytona where they throw the flag a little early here? McFall does have a bit of time, so I would think we're going to have this lap plus 1 more, but we won't know until Scott McFall comes around here, and he's still got about 0.6 of a lap to go.
McCain really got that wrong through turn 3. He had a big slide, and if White can stay close through turn 4, he might have a chance down here at turn 5. The straight's not very long, though, and so it's certainly a limited chance. There he goes, looking up the inside. Will he be late on the brakes? No, not quite. He needed to be later and more brave there, but it would have been either brave or silly. You can make your decision after the fact. Down in towards turn 8 they go now. The right-hander that sets you up for the back straight. White's got a good run again here. McCain knows it again. But look at this for Scott Brown. He's coming through on the inside line. This is all the way down on the brakes at turn 9. And he could have the place here. The Pro-Am being out-muscled now by the pros. As Scott Brown goes down the inside, White gives a lot of room. And he might even give the room to Neil Kennedy here as well. As they go round turn 10 to the braking zone at 11. Andy White has had his chance to get 6th place. And he's seen it go away from him. As the drivers in front of him, the pros in front of him, just all overtake him, and Alan McCain continues to hold on to that 6th place. White flag waves at the starter's stand. We've got one more to go here in race 1.
Yeah, that was a big moment there for Andy White, losing the battle with Elaine McCain, but also Scott Brown and Neil Kennedy clearing their way here. McFall and Mark Brown separated by a second up front. It's one more lap of action, one more lap for them to try what they can try here, but I do want to go back here with Scott Brown, because Scott Brown could find himself in 6th place here. He's got one lap to try to take that car up into 6th place, and he's looking fast, he's looking feisty. He might be able to do it.
I'm not sure he's close enough into the first 3 corners, but that's not really it. Only White seemingly is able to get a run off the final corner and give it a go into the first 3. Everyone else seems to struggle a bit to do that. Wonder if Stephen Parker Hamilton has fueled for 10 laps when there has been 11, because he's come into the pit lane, I'm afraid, and that's really what you need to avoid throughout these races. If you're making a pit stop, you are in trouble. And Michael Vester doing the same as well. He's coming in. Woodmore already in the pit lane, and he remains there after spinning early on in the race. Through the long left-hander of turn 5 and 6 they go. And Brown's just sizing up this opportunity. He needs a good run through turn 8, which is coming up right now, to have a go at turn 9, maybe in the final sector.
Yeah, we'll come through here. Final sector, final chance, final opportunity as we watch them come down the backstretch here. This is going to be where we have to go for the look. Somebody has their wipers on, and I wonder if that is a me issue. As we go down hard on the brakes, we stand and right on the rear bumper, all 4 of these cars. This could be a drag race down to the line. And as these 4 continue to battle, Scott McFall is just about to finish this first heat up as he comes around the final couple of corners. 2.5 he's pulled on Mark Brown. Very good run from him here today.
That's 5 races and 5 wins for Scott McFall, who wins the opener here at Navarra by just 1.4 seconds ahead of Mark Brown, who challenged him at times, but he's going to have to turn to the reverse grid race maybe for some glory here tonight. What about that battle for 6th place? Has Alan McCain hung on here as they finish just in behind Dan Forster, by the way, who will win in Pro-Am? McCain has got a run. Is it good enough for him to hang on to 6th place? He's caught Holland as well somewhat here, and he will just about finish in the top 6, and he'll take pole for the second race as they all nearly crash over the line. It's going to be Terry Atkinson who takes the win in Am as well. He's won twice so far this season. Wasn't able to win last week as Michael Vester and Sean Atkinson were able to take the victories. Instead, it's going to be Terry Atkinson who wins here in race 1 at Navarra, and he'll finish ahead of Sean Atkinson, who will be second.
Yeah, Atkinson and Ams, the 3 A's going through and having a very good showing here. Big gaps between them, but hey, do what they can. And then, of course, Mr. Tim Walters finding himself in 3rd place in the AMs. In the Pro-Ams, Adrian Hadfield had a good showing through, and many drivers having a good run as we wait on the last few drivers to make their way across the line here, set things up, and then this will get us into our, well, we always call it the warm-up session, but I really prefer to call it a cool-down session. Give the drivers time to relax and reset before we get going with our second run. Just a couple of drivers left to wait to finish their laps here, and it looks like the last one is Curtis Matthews as we see him cross the line now, and we'll have the results up in just a second. There we go, Mr. O'Leary. Results are up for you now.
Here we go. Oh, well, there's the bottom off them. We'll get the top off for you now. It's Oh, well.
There we go.
Will we? Yep, there we go. Scott McFall wins by 1.4 seconds in the end from Mark Brown. Andrew Sharp finishes on the podium after holding off the Pro-Am winner, Dan Forster. Jack Holland and Alan McCain will be part of the reverse grid. Scott Brown just missed out, of course, in that big battle with also Neil Kennedy and Andy White, the second place driver in Pro-Am. Lee Rylands rounds out the top 10 with Terry Atkinson, the Am winner, finishing in 11th. 11th. Adrian Hadfield finishes 12th ahead of Tim Walters, the final driver, within a minute of the winner. Then it was Peter Duke who had that really slow start, of course, only recovering to 15th. Stephen Parker Hamilton pitted on the final lap. He drops to 16th place. Scott Bell and Dave Clark were 17th and 18th. John Johnson, Curtis Matthews and Michael Vester were the final drivers to finish. And Peter Woodmore didn't do all of the laps in that race, as you may have noticed, finishing 8th down. So after that opening race, it's time to thank the sponsors that make these broadcasts possible here at the Tanso Racing Group. This is, of course, the TVG GR86 series. TVG standing for the Vape Guru, Norfolk's largest independent vape store, on the Hype Street and online. You can visit their website and Facebook in the description, as you can with TH Jordan, whose website is in the description. Clark St James as well. TS Livery Designs, you can check their Facebook out in the description as well for their designs. Conspit, visit conspit.com to visit them. Techsport Racing, I've got their Facebook and Instagram in our description, and thanks to them for coming on board. Relatively late on this season actually to come and sponsor this series, along with Blue Angel Kennels as well, who are also sponsoring this series. You can check out their Facebook in the description as well. A big thanks to all of those sponsors that make these broadcasts possible here in the GR86 series, round 3 of which is here at Navarra. Let me tell you a little bit about the future as well for this series, in case you're wanting to know when the next one is. We'll be back every week from now until the end of October with the 7-round calendar. We're going to Oschersleben next week, Imola the week after to round off our European mid-part of the season. Road Atlanta will be our penultimate round. Summit Point will be our finale. I believe that's been added in, because I don't remember Summit Point being the finale before, but maybe it always has been, and I've just missed it. So that's our 7-round calendar still to come. Still to come tonight, of course, it's the 25-minute reverse grid race, and looking forward to seeing if anybody can deny Scott McFall an overall victory, which would be for the first time this season, as he's taken top spot so far in 5 out of 5 races.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what happens here and who can really bring the challenge here. It's going to be an interesting race to watch and see what can be brought forward. Everybody seems pretty fast and seems pretty confident. Of course, we're riding on board here through this quote-unquote warm-up session, aka the cool-down session, aka the make this whatever you want it to be, and it is, different things. I always say, I would take the time, get up, go to the bathroom, get a drink of water, stretch a little bit, but the drivers don't tend to listen to me that much, which is the reason they're the drivers. So we end up with situations like we've got Scott Brown, Curtis Matthews, and Jack Holland on track, absolutely flying around with some lap times here, looking very, very impressive.
Yeah, they're not cooling down particularly, some of them. Scott Brown, Jack Holland, and Curtis Matthews are all out on the circuit. Instead, I think you are probably more correct to call it a cool-down session rather than a warm-up, because, as you say, there are very minimal drivers actually out on the circuit. And to be honest, I'd be really torn about what to do here. To be honest, personally, I always like to keep driving in these kind of warm-up sessions, because I was pretty bad at picking up immediately after having no practice. But I get that some drivers sort of just get worse if they drive more, if you see what I mean. And so they need to stay away from the rig just for 5 minutes or so. But it is good to have that little bit of a break. Some series, when there's 2 races, just go straight back to back, and that can be, for some drivers, that can be quite a big workload and can make them their performance decline just a little bit. But good that we got a 5-minute warm-up session just for a bit of a breather here in the meantime.
Yeah, I always like having that little separation between sessions. I mean, think about it. In real life, you're not going to go straight from running a race to a grid through to... Did we all see the car upside down as well, or was that just me? What sort of hargy-bargy mess is going on here with these guys? Let's check this out as we wait on this warm-up session to end, which it is here. Curtis Matthew obviously doing some donuts there, and
oh dear. Well, that's Holland who comes smashing into him. It's a good job it's only warm up, because that's a car on its roof that's not coming back again. So anyway, that's the end of that. That's what they're doing in the time off, clearly. And now they're ready to race. Alan McCain on the pole this time round, ahead of Jack Holland, who just smashed into Curtis Matthews. Dan Forster won in Pro-Am during that first race, and looking to do it again here from third with Andrew Sharp. Mark Brown and Scott McFall will be on row 3, and then it's just the order as they were at the end of the last race. Scott Brown and Neil Kennedy for an all-pro row 4. Andy White and Lee Rylands round at the top 10. Terry Atkinson is on the front of the Amfield ahead of Adrian Hatfield. Sean Atkinson is directly behind Terry with Tim Walters alongside. Peter Duke and Stephen Parker Hamilton are an all-pro-Am row 8, Scott Bell and Dave Clark, and all-Am row 9. John Johnson and Curtis Matthews round at the top 20, with Michael Vester and Peter Woodmore the 22. They all get onto the grid again. We're pretty much ready to go for 25 minutes of the second race in the TVG GR86 series here tonight. Race 6 of 14 here this season. Let's hope we get off to a good start. There's 13 laps go ahead of us. We are racing again. Off the front, Alan McCain gets off to a decent start with Jack Holland alongside. Nobody getting away sluggishly this time around, really, especially in the top 10, who are absolutely level. It's 3 wide in the midfield here as they go here. Mark Brown looking for places already, and he's firing through the middle here. On the inside is Andrew Sharp, but round the outside goes Mark Brown, bouncing over the curb for Sharp. Very nearly goes straight into Brown, but he hangs on to it here. The battle for third place goes side by side in towards turn 4.
Yeah, and this battle for third place is not over. Hard driving from everyone early on. The drivers that were inverted up to the front, they want to keep that car up front as much as possible, but they know they have fast drivers behind. And look at Sharp here. He's looking very sharp behind the wheel today. But as we keep going here, we continue on. And listen, Sharp, I had to make the joke somewhere. And back in the back, we've had a big moment that involves, well, there is Dave Clark, Peter Woodmore, Peter Duke, Curtis Matthews. They've had a big moment off in the background. We'll get a replay of that here in just a moment.
We'll get back to that when there's time, but there's little time here at the moment. Scott McFall down the inside of Andrew Sharp, who was one of the quickest drivers at Zolder 1 week ago. Maybe less so here today, but he's well inside the top 5 and running well. Down on the brakes they'll go. It's a left-hander, it's a spin for Brown. Mark Brown was one of the big challengers to Scott McFall in this race. He might have just seen his chance for his first race win this season go away from him.
It can be very, very challenging when you're a driver that's used to running up front in clean air and being chased. When all of a sudden you're doing the chasing, sometimes you make small mistakes like that, and you have moments where all of a sudden you end up there, and it ends very, very badly for you. I do want to go back and get a replay here of what happened with Peter Duke and see what happened here. And it looks like it did start here with Peter Duke very, very hard to the inside, goes around and spins. And that is actually not what happened with everyone else. Here's Dave Clark. And this is Dave Clark, Peter Woodmore, Scott Bell, Curtis Matthews all getting involved. Little bit of taps, misses the braking point. Sends it around, comes around, and everyone has to check up and gets involved.
Yeah, Dave Clark, the principal driver, spun around, and then Peter Duke went off to avoid them, but he carries on, and he's still 19th. Neil Kennedy's dropping down the field. I wonder whether we missed something here while we're looking at the other replays, because, oh dear, he's backwards. Kennedy's in the middle of the road. Is that, oh dear, that's not a good rejoin. That's not a good rejoin, I'm afraid. From, I think it was Vester, actually, who was back, as it was indeed. We'll have another look at some replays after this, but look at him flashing the lights there. Woodmore knows that was not a good rejoin. Meanwhile, this is all going on for the lead. Scott McFall is tearing his way through the field again. He's looking to win his 6th race in a row.
And he is going to keep pushing. We'll see what Scott McFall can give. He's in 3rd place. He's a feisty driver, and he should have plenty in the tank to give here to get all the way through this race. And he knows the key is to be smooth and be consistent here. He's going to keep that going, and he's going to keep moving along. And if you are Mr. Jack Holland right now, you are going to be nervous of the car behind. I do want to jump back and see what happened with Michael Vester here, because that was a very, very weird moment that we caught back into the tail end of Michael Vester here going around, and something in front of that. That was Neil Kennedy and Stephen Parker Hamilton. What happened to them? Here's Neil Kennedy. This is the overhead shot, and we see here hard on the brakes, down the inside, comes around, the car slides, and he's going to get a big tap there that will send him around. That is actually going to be Stephen Parker Hamilton that flipped him over, and then it looks like helped put him right back on all 4 wheels.
Yeah. He did, yeah. Well done. As Neil Kennedy just had to wait to get back going again. Meanwhile, Scott McFall is about to get into second place, just ahead of Jack Holland, and this is looking very, very good now for Scott McFall to take another race victory. Down into turn 3, he goes. He is currently second. I know Alan McCain was very strong defensively in that opening race of the day, and that is still true. However, surely he is going to struggle to hold back Scott McFall here.
Yeah, McCain is a very fast driver. I will give McCain that. He is very, very quick. He's a very, very smart driver. But man, if you know Scott McFall is there, and Scott McFall is another level there entirely in terms of pace, and we'll see what happens here. We might get a three-way battle here as McFall goes to the outside, McCain defending the inside, and Holland says, you know what? I think I want in on this as well. I think I want to try to snake my way around and see if I can't earn some places here. Elaine McCain goes first to third in the matter of 2 corners and is there. Sharp is looking very sharp in the background. A little bit of weaving around. We're looking for a position, and they all come through off of the back straight, stay single file, but man, McCain is going to be very, very frustrated here, but it doesn't mean that he's done. He may be able to find his way back forward. We still have plenty of racing left. We're only 3 laps in, and we've still got 19 and a half minutes that they've got to make it to the end.
Absolutely. Scott McFall, though, is in prime position now to take another race victory. Sean Atkinson, by the way, dropping down the field, I'm afraid, is back to 21st now. Peter Woodmore's back to pit lane as well here, so there'll be some more replays, I expect, coming up here pretty shortly, because there's plenty going on. Dropping down the field again here is Dave Clark. He's one of the AMs. Drops down to 19th place all of a sudden. It's been a pretty lively opening 5 minutes to this second race.
That it has, and I'm really, really liking where the second race is going. And the thing to remember is that there's no race after this. The first race, we tend to see drivers be a little bit more conservative because they know that they have this second race to try to go through. Here, throw care to the wind and run and do what you can. And look at this. Mark Brown has found his way back to the top 6. Top 6 all separated, but just a couple of seconds gaps for all of them as we go through. We've got bumper to bumper to bumper to bumper, and it's all with Scott McFall here holding everyone behind. We ride on to the gearbox of Scott McFall, and look at what he's seeing in the rearview mirror. It's going to be all of this action. It's going to be very, very feisty drivers, but he's not pulling a gap like he did in the first race. Everybody is staying right behind him here, and he's not pulling a gap. We're going to see if any gaps are there to be found, but I don't think they are.
Oh, Sharp look down the inside of McCain there, and the gaps are going to start to be created now by the battling. Look at that, Brown and Sharp are side by side here. This is Mark Brown, is it Scott Brown? It's Scott Brown who's trying to work his way through the inside first of all. Then Mark Brown, who's going to try and just follow whoever prevails out this battle really and try and move up to 5th place himself. Sharp is going to drop back here around the outside of turn 10, but down the inside of 11 and 12, and so we'll try and hang on through these 2 corners, get clear by the exit of turn 12. Here they go into the corner. That's pretty wide for Scott Brown. Here goes Mark Brown now. Does he have a chance on the way to... Oh, not quite. In towards turn 13, and there's contact. Mark Brown gets into the back of Scott Brown, but he doesn't gain a place as a result.
Yeah, that was Mark Brown trying to look for whatever opportunity he could find to get past, not finding a good one, and then all of a sudden finding a car slowing down in front of him when he wanted to keep going. And look at this. We still have Brown versus Brown with an E at the end that are going to continue to battle here. Of course, Scott Brown is the front Brown right now with Mark Brown just behind. And if you can't tell the difference on the timing table, look for the letter E. That will tell you who is Mark Brown. As we go down the main straight, they continue along. They continue to run. And who is that behind them? That is Lee Rylands, who is just a couple seconds back, is going to slowly be gaining, and we'll continue to watch how this goes because, man, tell you what, Mark Brown is looking fast. Scott Brown's going to spin it off, though. He loses rear traction, and he saves it, but Mark Brown will say, you know what, thank you very much. I needed you out of the way.
You don't see people saving it particularly often from that kind of slide, so fair play for that, but he has lost a place. Now the battle is for 3rd place. Alan McCain again is on the defensive. Jack Holland is very quick here, by the way, staying with Scott McFall, although it does feel like he's rather overextending himself, trying to stay with Scott McFall at the moment. Hopefully he doesn't pick up too many off tracks trying to follow, and he can do so within the white lines. But let's see on that front. Through the 8th corner they go now, and Andrew Sharp immediately gets alongside Alan McCain. Will McCain give this one up a little bit easier just so that he doesn't lose so much time to the likes of Mark Brown, who are waiting for him to falter further up ahead. Down the inside for Andrew Sharp. That's a pretty textbook move in towards turn 9.
Very clean pass there from Sharp to get up into third place, and now he needs to try to keep moving. Sharp could get his way further forward if he can hold on to this here. I do want to jump back a little bit further in the field with a couple of other battles that are going on. Peter Duke here is battling with that is going to be Atkinson back behind him. That is the leader in AMs. That is second place in Pro-Am that are going through. And Peter Duke is going to be in a rush because right in front of him is Adrian Hadfield, the leader in Pro-Am. So we do have a Pro-Am battle on the mix. And guess what? We have a battle in AMs for the mix as well. Terry Atkinson here leading Tim Walters by just a couple tenths and is under pressure much more than he was in our heat race. So we'll see how that goes along. You've got Mr. Andy White, who again is putting some hard pressure. He's trying to move back forward. He's trying to get his way around here after his moment, and he will keep pushing. He's going to keep running. He's trying to do what he can, but right now he sits in P12 holding on, and that is where AMs and Pro-Ams are, but back in pros it is going to be Lee Rylands back here, and Andrew Sharp into third.
Yeah, because McCain's off. Alan McCain's gone off, so the battles in Pro are starting to ebb away as Alan McCain has gone off, and Peter Duke now goes for the lead in Pro, and Walters goes for the lead in AMP as very wide goes Terry Atkinson. He comes back, though, at Walters here. There he is, side by side with just in behind Stephen Parker Hamilton also trying to get involved here. We've got Andy White as well, and the Pro-Ams trying to fight their way through. This is very exciting back in the midfield and down towards the back as well, round the outside for Stephen Parker Hamilton, who moves up to 12th place, and that's to be expected. You'd expect these Pro-Ams to work their way through on the AMs, but Peter Duke is now the new leader there after overtaking Adrian Hadfield, so he's turned around his difficult start to the day with now the Pro-Am lead.
Yeah, and here we go with Andy White trying to get a run on Adrian Hadfield here if he can, and he's going to be trying to push and get his run up the inside here. Is going to go White. He's going to go hard on the brakes there. Hadfield to the outside is going to hold on. The inside line has not worked there at all for anyone that's tried it, so I'm really shocked to continue to see drivers try to push that pass on the inside line, and still we see it go. Back behind there is Atkinson and Terry Atkinson and Parker Hamilton dueling it out. Up the inside goes Stephen Parker Hamilton, and he is going to get his pass done there with Walters very close behind. So many drivers so close in a shot. It's very rare to see this. Adrian Hadfield and Peter Duke running away here from Hadfield with Andy White right there in the mix. They go side by side coming up towards the front stretch.
Down the inside for Andy White, and he holds on there ahead of who just seem to be struggling. Here goes Stephen Parker Hamilton back down the inside. He's not going to have any slipstream here though, and so he'll have to tuck back in to the to behind. Here goes Tim Walters side by side with Terry Atkinson, although Atkinson again is going to have the slipstream and Walters will not, so it may well prevail here. Round the outside he's going to go. Will he make it through? Oh, he's not quite going to have the speed on the straight here. It is going to have to be done in the corner now, and Tim Walters gets through down on the inside, so Terry Atkinson loses the lead generally, or at least it's happened before. When he's won the first race, he also wins the second, as it has happened in Okayama. But Tim Walters now leads the field, 12th overall, and he's got 12 minutes, so 7 laps here to hang on.
Yeah, and I think he can hang on to it. We'll just have to sit and see. It's 12 minutes left to go, and the drivers are racing like it's the last lap, time after time after time. I do want to jump back up front here. Half a second separates Mr. Jack Holland and Andrew Sharp here in second and third place. And well, you might say, well, wasn't this a 6 or 7 car battle earlier on for the lead? It was, and if you want to know where our leader is, look no further than about here. Back in the background, you see the green car of Holland, and right here, this is Scott McFall. 2.8 seconds the gap here. Scott McFall leading the field as we go. Peter Duke trying to make a run. Oh, there's a big run.
Holland spins around out of turn 13. He gets on the power too early and too much, and he spins around. Lee Rylands will also go through into the top 5. I said earlier on that Holland was pushing really, really hard to try and stay with Scott McFall. He's not been able to stay with him, and so through they all go.
And what happened to him there? He got up on 2 wheels. He ramped that inside curb, got up on 2 wheels, and this GR86 did not like that. It's something that if you're brave, you can hold on and make work, but in that moment, it just did not work for him. Jumping back here, Elaine McCain, half a second separating him and Peter Duke. And Peter Duke, of course, leading in the Pro-Ams right now, maybe looking to put a buffer between himself and Andy White. But back here in the background, Stephen Parker Hamilton here in 11th place is looking for 3rd overall in the Pro-Ams if he can find it. There's Hadfield just in front of him. The white and green car is Stephen Parker Hamilton. The blue and black car is Hadfield. We'll see how these two battle off because they do, of course, have a Mr. Tim Walters and Terry Atkinson right behind as well that are going to be looking to put some pressure on.
This is... all very exciting here in the Pro-Am field. Aidan Hadfield has gone from leading here to off the podium very shortly, I think, with Stephen Parker Hamilton so close behind him, looking for a way through. He's not going to manage it this time round into turn 5 and 6. Through 7 they'll go. A bit of a wide run there for Hadfield. Here goes Parker Hamilton. He'll have to look to the outside here, making sure Hadfield's just making sure that he can't do it in towards turn 8, but he will get the run off of turn 8. This is textbook stuff from Stephen Parker Hamilton, who will be down the inside here and surely through into turn 9. He just needs to get later on the brakes and he'll have 10th position overall. Here he goes down the inside and through he moves into the podium positions now in the Pro-Am field. He'll be very happy with this turnaround. After race 1, so far in this race, he's gained 6 positions.
I'm going to take back what I said earlier about not being able to get the pass done around the inside through 9 and 10, because clearly, Stephen Parker Hamilton heard me and said, I can do it and watch me. So good pass there, and Hadfield now needs to watch out for Mr. Tim Walters. Tim Walters, of course, an AM, but hey, if you can continue to move forward, you move forward, and Stephen Parker Hamilton going into the pit lane. What is this about?
It's the second race in a row he's done this. He pitted in during the first one.
Is he serving
weaves
a
around.
penalty?
It must be a drive-through. No, he pulls into his box and retires. Oh no, he's missed his box. Oh dear, well that's not a good start. He's missed his box entirely, first of all. Had to escape back to pit lane, and then he'll get back going again, but that's all very weird down there. Don't know what's going on, to be honest, as Tim Walters is very close behind Adrian Hadfield, and Neil Kennedy just in behind as well. So these are the 3 different classes on screen together and in the same battle.
Yeah, and I will tell you right now, Mr. Adrian Hadfield just got gifted this 3rd place in Pro-Am at that point, because his nearest competitors, Dan Forrester, all the way down in 17th place as we go through. Walters here trying to put in some pressure, go through. Of course, Mr. Neil Kennedy, the pro, no surprise to see that pass, and we'll see if Neil Kennedy has enough in the tanks to get this pass done. Elaine McCain has had a big off here, and he is going to be off on the side. We see him down, and that is the battle we were just watching coming right into his rearview mirror and right into the top of our shot, and that is going to be Hadfield, Kennedy, Walters all in the mix. So we'll see what becomes of that. And what happened to Elaine McCain? Well, as soon as we get through these corners and we see that Neil Kennedy gets this pass done, I will show you what happened to Mr. Elaine McCain.
Now let's see, in a few moments' time, it looks like there will be remaining single file here. So Neil Kennedy waiting for a later point in the lap to try and do this. And I imagine towards turn 1, 2 and 3 maybe he'll go for it, just as he did on Walters earlier on. So let's have a look in the meantime at the replay for Alan McCain. He was defending from somebody here, was he? Looking up the inside, and does he get hit? No? Well, yes, actually. Does get hit. Who would that have been then? Scott Brown or Mark Brown, maybe?
That
Not
was
sure.
Peter Duke that he was defending from.
Oh,
We'll jump
me.
on the nose of Peter Duke here real quick. Let's see how this one went. So Peter Duke on the outside, and not a lot you can say.
Oh, pretty awkward. Side by side for 10th as Neil Kennedy tries to work his way through. He's on the outside, which means that Hadfield is defending from him here effectively into 1, 2 and 3. Round the outside goes Kennedy, and he should be through into the 9th position here. Well, he's made hard work of it. He's off as well, but he wasn't given a lot of choice. And around the outside, he'll go into 10th position. One driver getting really nervous about this, though, is going to be Tim Walters, because look at Terry Atkinson closing in on him as a result of this. The AM leader can't do anything about the 2 ahead of him battling, and as a result, he's being slowed down.
Yeah, we're right on board here with Terry Atkinson, who you can see is just right in the back. He's going to be picking his spots. He might have the run on Walters here as we go through, because Walters is just stuck behind Hadfield and Kennedy as they continue to battle. Kennedy's finally gotten past Hadfield, and now look at this run Atkinson is going to have down the back stretch. That's a run and a half, you have to call it here, and we'll see, can he clear this pass on the inside and prove to me for the second time the inside is possible.
It's up on the curb. Wow. He sees his momentum go away from him, Terry Atkinson, and he will drop back now as a result of that. Tim Walters hangs on to the lead in the AM class. Meanwhile, third place in AM is Michael Vester. I know plenty of people in YouTube chat are excited to see him and excited to, or just supporting him here this afternoon. A very good evening to you. Glad to have you along for the broadcast. He's currently running in the podium places again, is Michael Vester, as he is in the championship, third place coming in today, although he's behind Walters and Atkinson, who are the only two ahead of him in the championship as well. 5 minutes to go then, and 3 laps remaining here for Scott McFall, just to see this one out, and behind for the other battles to sort themselves out. But at the moment, there are no class battles other than the one for the lead in Pro-Am. 6/10 of a second between Peter Duke and Andy White fighting for the win there.
Yeah, and Duke and White, this battle's going to get fairly close here, but I wonder if for Andy White it might be a little too late in the race, if he's got anything left to give out of this car and what he can do. And a little update on the Stephen Parker Hamilton situation. He is out of the race entirely. That wasn't a hit situation. He has left the server situation. So hopefully everything's okay with him, and maybe something came up. Hard to tell, but Stephen Parker Hamilton is out, and we've also lost Sean Atkinson and Peter Woodmore. We've lost there. So out of our 22 drivers, 19 remain on the track here. And as you said, this is our closest battle. This is the battle for the win in Pro-Ams. And then, of course, Walters is trying to chase down Hadfield and defend from Terry Atkinson behind as they continue. What about your pros, I hear you ask? I hear everyone asking, and by everyone, I mean probably just myself. Well, let's check in with this guy, Scott McFall, leading by 5 seconds, and you see just behind him Andrew Sharp, who's looking very sharp in that second place as they continue on, but he's got 1.6 seconds to Mark Brown. They run through, and that is your top 3 right now, and top 4 as they can stand. And Jack Holland into the pit lane now, and possibly another retiree here with 3.5 minutes left to go.
See, maybe he's just underfield slightly. There's another couple of laps to go, but that's that would take us to the expected lap count. So I'm not sure how he would have forgotten Neil Kennedy in as well. There's a lot of pit stops today, considering this is a series that there are no scheduled pit stops to be made. So the battle for Pro-Am honours now moves up to 6th place here. Peter Duke has made up an absolutely massive 9 places so far in this race, which is way better than his recovery that he managed in the opening race of the day. And now he's fighting for the win with Andy White. Further back, Tim Walters has been off the road, I'm afraid, and the lead has changed hands in AM again. Terry Atkinson moves up to 1st. Michael Vester now moves up to 2nd in the AM class.
Yeah, AM class getting very, very interesting here, and that is because Tim Walters has had a big old moment here. And let's jump back and see exactly what happened to Tim Walters here as we ride through. Look at the white car at the bottom of your screen, going around and clips the curb, comes off, and the car just had no traction to give. Tim Walters is now there, dropped, thankfully only 1 place to Michael Vester, but that is going to play havoc for him as we continue along. Let's jump back here. Michael Vester, 6.5 seconds back from Atkinson, Terry Atkinson. Not a lot there. Neil Kennedy in 15th place here, trying to chase down Dan Forrester to get this pass done to put him up into 14th. Again, this is not a class battle, but this is a battle for position, and it is fairly close here. And then, of course, we do need to watch Peter Duke and Andy White. We're coming up. Our leader is about to start lap 12 here. This should be the white flag from Barney, if I'm not mistaken. And this should, yes, there's your white flag. So 1 lap to go.
1 more to go. And Scott McFall is leading by some distance. 5 seconds on his way to his 6th win out of 6 so far this season. Peter Duke just ahead of Andy White. Now, can he hang on? Just 1 more lap to go here for the Pro-Am battle. And look at that. It's creeping up now. 3/4 of a second back to White, who just made a bit of a mistake into the final corner. He's beginning to slip further behind.
And that is, these cars are all about momentum. Again, we call them the big brother to the MX-5 Miata series, and it's all about momentum at that point. If you're not carrying momentum, you're going to have a very, very bad time. And as these drivers are just starting their final lap, Scott McFall is about to hit the backstretch here. He's running through. He's nice and comfortable. Neil Kennedy is in the pit lane again, so Neil Kennedy's day written off here. But for Andy White, he's 0.4 of a second back on Peter Duke. If he has saved anything in the tank, right now is the time he needs to do it. And we will watch this battle to its conclusion until Scott McFall gets near the finish line.
We will indeed. Can White get any closer here? He's not really close enough as things stand. Holland's closing on McCain as well here, by the way, for 8th place overall. That's a lower position, of course, in the pro field, but Holland is quicker, so in pure speed terms anyway. So there may be a chance, but let's see. Down in towards turn 9. This is the best chance for White, but he's nowhere near close enough. Unfortunately, he's just a frustrating distance behind where you know that you're picking up the slipstream. You know that you are in a leading battle, but you're not quite close enough to affect anything. Further up front, Scott McFall is going to come round the final corner and take his 6th win of the season. Domination again from our championship leader as he extends his lead even further. He's looking unstoppable this season, and Scott McFall wins again. This time ahead of Andrew Sharp and Mark Brown. In the battle for the Prime win, is Peter Duke going to get there? He qualified well, of course, well inside the top 5. Had a bad start to race 1, couldn't really recover very well. Now, though, he is looking to take a victory here in the Pro-Am field. He will be very pleased with that as a tightening Pro-Am Championship battle gets even tighter. Peter Duke takes his 2nd victory of the season here at Navarra in the 2nd race. And further back, it's going to be Terry Atkinson. Every time he wins race 1 at the moment, he's going on to win race 2 as well. And that's exactly what's happened here. It's his 4th race victory out of 6 so far this season. And Terry Atkinson wins again in the AM class.
Huge battles all the way through the field in this championship. Huge battles on the track today. Everyone continued through, but in the end, you do have to give a bow down to Scott McFall, who is 6 for 6 here in the league in this season, and is gonna who I think is my question is who can hold Scott McFall back? He hasn't really set a foot wrong anywhere. Peter Duke, of course, making things very tight in the Pro-Ams. And then in the Ams, Terry Atkinson, Michael Vester right there with Tim Walters in 3rd place after a spin on his own there at the end. And, you know, it's unfortunate, but sometimes it does happen. But all hats are off to this man on his victory lap, Scott McFall.
Yep, they certainly are. So he pulls back into pit lane. I'm very pleased with this afternoon's work all over again. He's the race winner by 5.7 seconds in the end from Andrew Sharp, who we'll get to chat to in a few moments' time. Mark Brown will join them on the podium with Scott Brown and Lee Rylands in the top 5. Peter Duke wins in Pro-Am ahead of the 2nd placed Andy White. Alan McCain, Jack Holland, and then Am winner Terry Atkinson round at the top 10. Michael Vester finishes 11th ahead of Tim Walters in 12th. Adrian Hatfield just holds off Dan Forster to finish on the podium in Pro-Am. Just off the podium in Am was John Johnston, who's 15th, but Scott Bell and Dave Clark. Neil Kennedy way down in the pro field, unfortunately, after that early spin. Curtis Matthews finished 19th, 5 laps down for Sean Atkinson, 6 down for Sean Parker, 10 down for Peter Woodmore, who didn't finish either race here today, unfortunately. So, Scott McFall wins, and just behind him was Andrew Sharp, who now joins us. Welcome in, Andrew. Good to have you with us. 2nd place in race 2 here tonight. How did you find the Navarra circuit, and how did you find your races this afternoon?
First time on the track in this car, so it's just constant. You don't really get a break that much around here, so lots of action, especially in that feature race. So it was good fun. Obviously, I'm a bit disappointed that I wasn't able to keep up with Scott getting through traffic, so kind of a boring race once the race start was over. But other than that, good race overall.
I mean, Scott McFall's won 6 races now. Just what can you and the others do about him, and especially in these second races? Because, as you say, he has to come through traffic. If he's going to win both races in the evening, he has to come through from 6th place. And there's, 5 of you to defend from. And at the moment, he still seems able to come through the field and win, in this case, fairly comfortably. Just what can you guys do about Scott McFall, and how can you displace him at the top of at the top of these races?
I mean, if the traffic wants to let me through after him, that'd be great. That would help a lot. But obviously, that's not racing. I don't know. I think some of the tracks may suit me later on in the schedule, but I think just trying to follow him through as much as possible and just practicing. I've been doing oval a lot this season, so that's kind of been my focus, and this is just something to do for fun on Sundays. So I need to practice more if I want to keep up.
Well, I suppose so. Is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to before we let you go?
Yeah, shout out to the Vermilion boys. Thanks for the support, and look forward to the rest of the season.
Absolutely, we are as well. Congratulations on second in race 2 tonight, Andrew, and thanks for coming to chat to us.
Thanks. Have a good night.
Thanks very much, Andrew Sharp there in second here in the second race. Scott McFall also pops himself into the waiting room, and we'll have a chat to him as well. Winner in both races again. Here's Scott. How was Navarra, first of all, because you've been doing these back-to-back victories and a few circuits this season so far, but how was Navarra?
Yeah, it was okay, to be fair. Raced it last season, so setup pretty much stayed the same. It was just kind of adapting to the difference with the car. But yeah, no, it was good racing, good track.
I mean, as I say, what did you take from last season into towards this one? Because, you know, especially as an overall, not just here at this circuit, because, you know, you've been winning left, right and centre here this season, where it was a lot closer and the wins were shared around a lot more last season. So what's changed? What have you taken from last season into this one?
Well, for the start of the race anyway, certainly not you got a drive-through penalty, because I got that last season, so we had worked not to jump to start. But it's just the same, to be fair. There's not really too much which changed to take into it. Just keep racing, try and keep it fair, and see where we end up.
Absolutely. Well, you've ended up first again twice here tonight. Is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to before we let you
go? Just a shout out to personal sponsors with Conspit Sim Racing. Obviously to John for running the league as well, and yourselves for the good commentary and the stream every week with it.
Thanks very much. It's a pleasure to be here again. Scott, congratulations on the double win, and thanks for coming to chat to us.
Cheers, guys. See you soon.
Thanks very much. Scott McFall there, the winner in both races tonight. Mark Brown finishes on the podium in race 2 and race 1, in fact, so we can chat to him now as well. Welcome in, Mark. Good to have you with us on the podium again a couple of times. How was race 2? Because especially in the opening part, as we're just watching some replays here of the opening parts of the race, it was pretty lively early on. How was the second race?
Yeah, kind of hope to be up higher. Well, actually finished third in the second race, but just had a bit of an incident with Jack on the opening lap. Made up a couple of positions at the start, and I was hoping to try and keep with Scott, but it landed me back then down to 8th or 9th, I think, or something like that in the grid, and I got myself back up again. But yeah, after that there, I was just nursing too many incident points to really push hard. Like what the first race, yeah, it was good. Now I got a real good launch of the start. I was very surprised, and yeah, just me and Scott went away with just, so it was nice that. But yeah, all in all, not too bad. Not too bad. Haven't been about racing much recently, so it's good to be up there fighting with the fast boys.
Absolutely. I mean, how much have the incident points been a factor so far this season? Was it just Navarra being, easy to pick up off tracks, or has it been a factor at all of the rounds so far?
Generally, I don't have a problem, but there's them 2 races there. I had the last couple of laps, it basically was just nursing 16, so it was. But yeah, here it's very, very easy to pick up incidents. Very fast flowing, and you're sort of you're on the edge, you're on the limit, like off the track boundaries to be fast. But yeah, it just. More so here than anywhere else, I think. I don't know if anyone else would agree with that, but I don't really have an issue with incident points anywhere else. So yeah, can't complain, man. Can't complain.
Yeah, I think this circuit will be the most difficult. Looking at the rest of the tracks on the schedule as well. Is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to before we let you go?
Yeah, just yourselves. Hi for the great broadcast, and John and all the admin of Tanso putting it on. My wife for being on the stand too, yourself, and all the people watching and all at home and that can't race. So thank you very much.
Thanks very much for being here. Congratulations on double podium tonight, and thanks for coming to chat to us as well.
Thank you. Take it easy. Good luck.
Thanks very much, Mark Brown there, third place tonight in both races. We've had some championship standings in, by the way, because John Johnson's very quick with them. So I'll just quickly tell you about who's leading. Scott McFall, no surprise, still leading. 61 points now his gap in Pro. Peter Duke is now leading in Pro-Am by only 4 points, though, ahead of Andy White, with Dan Forster dropping a few today. He's 19 back now. Tony Atkinson leads by an even bigger margin now in the Am class. He's 43 ahead of Tim Walters, who is in second. Entertaining couple of races tonight, though, at Navarra, Brad. I mean, as I said before the broadcast, driving round here is not the most exciting. The racing round here, though, was pretty enjoyable.
Yeah, as always, these GR86s produce a very, very close, hard racing. I do enjoy watching it. I enjoy everything that this GR86 league brings, and we have a few more races left in this season, and it's gonna fly through. But hey, I enjoy bringing it along. We'll see what happens next week.
We will. Big thanks to everyone who's been tuned in over the course of this evening. It's been great to have your company. This has been the TVG GR86 series from the Tanso Racing Group. We'll see you next week at the Ossersleben. From myself, Ewan, and Brad Dalton alongside me, it's goodbye for now. We'll see you in a week's time.